Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Monday, January 11th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. On the move to move him out. Democrats tonight offering up articles of impeachment looking to make President Trump the first ever to be impeached twice. Our coverage begins with Whitney Wild on the unprecedented action.
This president is guilty of inciting insurrection. He has to pay a price for that.
Democrats formally introduced an impeachment resolution Monday morning, the first move toward holding an impeachment vote against President Donald Trump this week. Democrats tried to first take up a resolution urging Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment through unanimous consent, but it was blocked by Republicans.
Resolution calling on Vice President Michael R. Pence to convene and mobilize the principal officers of the executive departments of the cabinet to activate Section 4 of the 25th Amendment to declare President Donald J. Trump incapable of executing the duties of his office and to immediately exercise powers as acting president.
I object.
This single article charges Trump with incitement of insurrection for his role in the riots at the U.S. Capitol last Wednesday. It also references Trump's repeated false claims of a stolen election and his call to the Georgia Secretary of State in which he urged the secretary to find votes for him to win. The co-sponsor of the article of impeachment, Representative Dan Kildee, told CNN a vote could come on Wednesday if Pence doesn't act to invoke a vote on the 25th Amendment.
We'll move as quickly as possible to take the impeachment article to the floor of the House and act upon it.
In Washington, Whitney Wild, KPBS News.
San Diego Congressman Scott Peters says if the president isn't removed by the 25th Amendment or resigns, he will vote to impeach. However, he says it won't accomplish what he wants to happen now, which is get Trump out of the White House. Peters says by the time the Senate starts the impeachment trial, President-elect Joe Biden will already have been sworn in.
I would really like to hear from President-elect Biden about whether this is really how he wants to spend the first month of his presidency or any part of his presidency, is talking about Donald Trump. I kind of think that attention is what Donald Trump wants, and that having that trial about him puts him in the center of the public discussion. And I think it's more almost in the nature of a reward than a punishment for him.
All local Democratic representatives have called for Trump's removal. Today, 2 U.S. Capitol police officers were suspended for their actions during the riot, one who took a selfie with someone and a second who put on a Make America Great Again hat. The FBI is warning of more potential unrest ahead of Inauguration Day. According to an FBI bulletin, armed protests may be in the works in all 50 state capitals. Over the weekend in San Diego, some of the president's supporters held a protest that was met by counter-demonstrators. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says it resulted in arrests.
San Diego police say demonstrations over the weekend turned violent when bottles and rocks were thrown at officers. They declared an unlawful assembly and at times had to use less than lethal force. Police say they knew in advance about Saturday's Patriot rally in Pacific Beach. People showed up there with Trump 2020 flags, touting their support for the president. What police were not expecting was what appeared to be counter-protesters dressed in all black with Antifa flags. At one point, the groups were split into 2 sides, the pro-Trump crowd on one and those donning anti-fascist flags on another. Police say that's when those in black began throwing rocks and bottles at officers. 2 adults were arrested for failure to disperse, and 1 minor was arrested for assaulting a police officer, but a spokesperson could not provide any details about how the officer was attacked. Police are also looking for victims of crimes. Several fights broke out between opposing sides, and at least one business did have a window broken. 5 officers received injuries that did not require hospitalization. Earlier in the summer, Pacific Beach was the site of anti-lockdown protests, and we have seen racial justice protests downtown too, but these were different, having two sides squaring off. USA! 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 With President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration now just days away, SDPD says they have no reports of any planned protests, but that could always change. In regards to demonstrations at the state capitol, Newsom says everyone is on high alert, saying free speech is welcomed, but there will be no violence.
But I can assure you, we have heightened level of security as it relates to some concerns.
Newsom says he will activate California Guard troops as needed. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
This past weekend was the deadliest on record for COVID-19 in California, pushing the statewide total past 30,000 deaths. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer has more.
Over the weekend, the state reported a two-day record of 1,163 COVID-19 deaths, but Governor Gavin Newsom said there is reason to be optimistic.
You'll see a 6% increase in the total number of hospitalizations over the last 14 days. Patients with COVID-19. That's among the smallest increases we've seen over a 2-week period in some time.
Due to the increased stress on hospitals and those helping to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, California has secured roughly 1,900 state and federal staff to help vaccine rollout and plans on adding more healthcare workers soon.
We expect within 7 days more LVNs, more RNs, more respiratory specialists, about 1,000 contract staff will hit the ground.
The state also expanded the pool of people who can administer COVID-19 vaccines.
We're seeing more and more paramedics partnering with the counties. Local health officers are encouraging this, and we are very supportive, and EMTs as this local option for additional vaccinators to help administer these vaccines faster.
With a goal of administering 1 million more vaccinations expiring this upcoming weekend, there's been a turn towards flexibility in who can receive the shots.
We now have flexibility where we can move into these phases and these tiers, which include people 75 and over, includes people 65 and over, if those folks are not present and available. So there's no waste, more flexibility, more capacity.
According to Johns Hopkins University data, California has eclipsed 30,000 COVID-19 deaths and has recorded over 2,700,000 cases of the novel coronavirus. The good news, over 780,000 doses of vaccines have been administered in the state. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Today, San Diego County health officials opened up the first COVID-19 Vaccination Super Site. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says they hope it will speed up the vaccine's rollout.
Tailgate Park in the East Village is now dotted with tents where healthcare workers and staff at assisted living facilities can drive or walk up and get the Moderna vaccine. UCSD Health is providing the medical staff. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says the fragmented healthcare system has proven a barrier to letting everyone who's eligible get their shots quickly.
A large number of vaccinations are being done by health systems, by the VA, by DOD, by pharmacies, and so it is a very fragmented, disjointed nature. There hasn't been one place that someone could just go and say, I'm a healthcare worker, I can't get it, where do I go? And so we want to do that.
The site will start with 2,500 vaccinations per day and work its way up to 5,000. Eventually, the county plans on opening more of these sites. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria says everyone who's eligible should get vaccinated now.
For those of you that are in future phases of the vaccination process, get ready. Find out where you're at. Avail yourself of the knowledge so that when your time is here, that you can get vaccinated as quickly as possible.
Appointment slots for the site will be opened weekly via Vaccination Super Station SD.com. There you can also see the tiers of groups next in line to get vaccinated. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
For more information about who is eligible for the vaccine and where to get one, visit kpbs.org. 2 gorillas at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park have tested positive for COVID-19. And as KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson tells us, zoo officials suspect a 3rd gorilla may also be infected.
The COVID-19 pandemic has touched a troop of 8 gorillas that live at the safari park north of San Diego. Keepers noticed several of the animals were showing signs of a sickness, so they tested fecal samples.
As you can imagine, there's a little bit of a challenge with that in that you're trying to match up the sample with the appropriate member of our troop. And that was sent out, and we got a tentative positive on Friday.
Peterson says the gorillas likely got the illness from an asymptomatic keeper. The zoo was requiring masks and gloves when interacting with the primates, but precautions will be stepped up. Keepers will keep a close eye on the gorillas to make sure the symptoms don't become severe.
We allow them to tell us what's happening through behavior and through what we see, and then we will intervene if needed based on the symptoms that show themselves. Fortunately, the symptoms that we're seeing are what we would consider mild. We're hearing a little bit of coughing, a bit of a runny nose.
This is the first known case of human-to-gorilla transmission in the United States, but there have been other cases of human-to-animal transmission, especially to big cats in New York and Kentucky, both of those in zoos. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
As COVID-19 numbers spike to record highs across the county, KPBS reporter Max Nadler tells us cases are also rising among the essential workers we depend on to stock our food and medicine.
The numbers reflect just how widespread COVID-19 infections now are in San Diego County. The union representing workers at many Ralphs, Vons, Albertsons, CVS's, and other essential workplaces says that a record number of employees are contracting COVID-19. In November, 82 workers had tested positive for COVID-19. By December, that number exploded to 404. Now, just 11 days into January, 152 cases have been reported.
It's everywhere. It's not just South Bay or North County. It's everywhere.
Union Chief Todd Walters thinks that despite the positive tests, workers in these stores have been able to ensure safe working conditions for themselves.
The ability for them to walk away and wash their hands, clean their check stands. We tell members they have the right to just remove themselves from an unsafe situation, whether it's overcrowding, whether it's somebody refusing to wear a face cover, making sure that they know what their rights are.
But with COVID-19 cases still at staggering highs and demand high at grocery stores and pharmacies, Walters thinks that vaccinations for these workers should be expedited as the county begins to speed up its vaccination program.
We're labeled as 1C. So you've got the medical first responders first, you've got the nursing facilities, the long care facilities, and the staff second, and the people, I think, over 75. Then it goes to 1C, which is our workers. But the problem with that is there's about 10 million people that fall into that category. And so right now there's a big fight within the state of everybody's trying to push their group to the top of the list.
With cases and deaths now at record highs, the vaccines can't come soon enough for those who provision San Diego. But in the meantime, they're just going to have to wait as their numbers continue to climb. Max Nadler, KPBS News.
Los Angeles County has reported an overwhelming increase in coronavirus infections, hospitalizations, and deaths since November. In this ride-along, Josh Campbell offers the perspective of medical professionals working hard in a harried environment.
A grueling 10-hour shift in an ambulance in Los Angeles.
6413, we're full crew and available.
That's what's in store for EMT Sadie Pope, in a county where health officials say a person is dying from COVID every 8 minutes.
It's definitely shifted in the last month.
2218, can I fire?
Just with the call volumes, like constantly just, we're running and running.
Pope, a mother of 3 and former stay-at-home mom, has been doing this the last 6 months. A job she loves, but it's taking a toll.
A few months ago, there would be times where we'd sit for a couple hours just waiting for a call in our area. But now we're lucky if we sit for a half an hour.
Her partner, Kyle Dohio, has been an EMT for about a year.
Every time I come back to work every week, it just gets worse and worse.
LA4 radio, start toward.
Daily deaths here at times are exceeding all the homicides in the city of Los Angeles in 2019 combined. ICU beds are extremely hard to find. Some EMTs say they've waited outside hospitals with patients for 6 to 8 hours.
How has this impacted you?
A lot of times I'm just exhausted and I go straight home, eat dinner, and go to bed. So it's doing everything I can to get my rest, eat as much as I can, and then try to stay healthy so I can keep going.
Ambulance Supervisor Carolyn Caraway allowed CNN to ride along with her teams while helping them endure the crushing hospital waits.
I'm constantly talking to them, checking in on them, seeing how they're doing. My truck is full of snacks and Gatorades just to help, get them through the day.
Where are they going?
Let's see.
There's no let up today. A new 911 call is in.
You know what their call is?
6177 going to be for difficulty breathing.
So this one's going to be a COVID positive patient.
At the scene, the EMTs quickly put on full personal protective equipment. With the patient placed on a gurney, they are rushed to a nearby hospital, where, according to Caraway, 8 care ambulances are already standing by with other patients. CARE tells us the patient we watch them transport will eventually wait more than 3 hours before getting a hospital bed. 5 hours into her shift, we catch up with Sadie Pope after transporting a COVID patient.
Did you ever think going into this field that you would be in a place where you're taking these kind of precautions for yourself as you're also trying to help other people?
I wasn't expecting anything like this. But yeah, it's a big deal because I'm with these patients all day and then I go home to my kids. So I'm just definitely trying to be aware of the people around me and be smart about what I'm doing.
That was Josh Campbell reporting. COVID-19 made evacuating from disasters harder last year, and the threat is not over. iNews Source reporter Camille Van Canel explains what local officials have learned.
San Diego County is working to improve its disaster response after recently finishing its review of 2020's largest blaze, the Valley Fire. The report lists recommendations and shows how sheltering was a big problem. When the Valley Fire erupted near Alpine in September, workers scrambled to find enough hotel rooms to safely house evacuees amid the pandemic. Here's Sean Mahoney with the Red Cross.
It was particularly challenging that a big fire occurred during Labor Day weekend when a lot of hotel rooms were being used, but even on that weekend, we were able to meet the need for everybody.
Any larger disaster, and the Red Cross would have had to turn to small group shelters for evacuees. Since the fire, the county has trained its staff to step in as additional shelter workers. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source reporter Camille Van Canel.
iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS.
No signs of any rain in our near future. It's all about high pressure. High pressure will be strengthening this week. And as it strengthens, our temperatures will be soaring. So by the end of the week, we could be arriving record high temperatures Thursday and Friday and perhaps Saturday into the desert region. So it's really going to warm up. We'll have a lot of sunshine too, mostly clear skies. Temperatures above normal, but really above normal the second half of the week. And we'll see some periods of gusty north to northeast winds. Looks like Friday could be quite breezy to windy. We still have some rough surf there along the coast. These surf advisories are in effect here right into Tuesday, but after that they should be dropped. Looking at our temperatures tonight, dropping to 36 in Oceanside, San Diego 45, Ramona 35, and around 40 in El Cajon, Borrego Springs, mid-30s, mid-20s, Mountain Laguna, mid-30s in Campo. For tomorrow, well, we told you it's going to be a dry day. We'll have the offshore flow, a little bit breezy here. Temperatures will be running a little bit above average, so we're going to be up to 70 degrees. And Oceanside, it's 68, lots of sunshine. Ramona's 70, El Cajon's 76, Borrego Springs in the low 70s, and Campo's in the mid-60s. Wednesday, well, there's that high pressure. It's really starting to build now. So temperatures will start to ramp up Wednesday, Thursday into Friday. And the flow generally offshore, but it does pick up in intensity later Thursday into Friday. Here's our temperatures above average, and then it really gets warm here. Thursday and Friday will be arriving record high temperatures. Inland sections warming up too in the 70s, but Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we are in the 80s. And here in the mountains, milder mid-70s Thursday, a little breezy on Friday into Saturday. And in the deserts, temperatures warming up near record warmth here into the weekend. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Another member of President Trump's cabinet has resigned. Chad Wolf announced he is stepping down as the acting Secretary of Homeland Security. The day after the attack at the Capitol, Wolf released a statement urging the president and all elected officials to condemn the violence. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos and Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao resigned last week. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger called President Trump, quote, a failed leader who will go down in history as the worst president. In a video posted to Twitter on Sunday, the Austrian-born actor compared the siege on the U.S. Capitol with Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, in 1938 when Nazi soldiers ravaged Jewish neighborhoods in Germany. He says Wednesday was the Night of Broken Glass here in the United States.
The broken glass was in the windows of the United States Capitol. But the mob did not just shatter the windows of the Capitol. They shattered the ideals we took for granted. They did not just break down the doors of the building that housed the American democracy. They trampled the very principles on which our country was founded.
Schwarzenegger went on to criticize Republican lawmakers for being complicit to the events. Pfizer is ramping up production of their COVID-19 vaccine with the goal of distributing 2 billion doses worldwide by the end of the year. That is based on improvements to the process and expansion at production facilities. So far, more than 32 million doses have shipped around the world. As Americans get their vaccinations over the coming months, it's important to note that anyone who gets one could still end up getting sick. Mandy Gaither explains.
COVID-19 vaccines are becoming available to more Americans.
I would strongly encourage that we move forward with giving states the opportunity to be more expansive in who they can give the vaccine to, particularly as more supplies become available.
Health officials continue to say being vaccinated is one of the best ways to protect yourself and others from getting sick. But no vaccine works 100% of the time. During trials, the current authorized vaccines were shown to be about 95% effective, which means some who were vaccinated became symptomatic. Here's why. It takes time to build immunity, and both authorized vaccines require 2 doses given several weeks apart to train the body's immune system. But people can be exposed to the coronavirus right before being vaccinated or right after, which doesn't give the body enough time to develop its defenses. The CDC says building immunity typically takes a few weeks. Moderna measured its 95% vaccine efficacy starting 14 days after the second dose, while Pfizer started 7 days after the second dose. But let's be clear, the current coronavirus vaccines cannot infect anyone with the virus. They don't contain the virus, but the CDC says vaccinated people should still use all the tools available to us. Wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from others, and wash your hands. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
California has extended its list of mental health conditions insurers must cover. Cal Matters reporter Jocelyn Weiner explains the state's new mental health parity law.
If you break your leg or need heart surgery, your insurance covers it. But that hasn't always been true for mental illness and substance use disorders. A new 2021 law in California could improve that. I'll explain.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Weiner. I'm a reporter for Cal Matters, and I'm going to explain California's new mental health parity law in 1 minute.
In the past, state law only required treatment for 9 serious mental illnesses. Even before the pandemic, more than half of Californians said most people with mental health conditions couldn't get the help they needed. Some families even dropped private insurance to qualify for treatment in the public mental health system. California's new law will expand the list of conditions commercial insurers must cover. It includes medically necessary care for all mental health and substance use disorders. During the pandemic, our nation's mental health is getting worse. Nearly a third of people say they're anxious or depressed. Over and over, legislation to expand mental health coverage and enforcement in California failed. The insurance industry blocked past attempts to change the law. They say new requirements would increase consumer costs. The new law's supporters disagree. They say it will greatly expand access to mental health treatment in the state and make California a leader for the rest of the country. To learn about other new laws taking effect in 2021, visit calmatters.org. For Cal Matters, I'm Jocelyn Weiner.
And now to update our top stories. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria just released a statement asking the public for help to identify those responsible for violence that broke out at protests in Pacific Beach. San Diego police arrested 2 adults and 1 minor on Saturday after pro-Trump protesters clashed with counter-demonstrators. SDPD says they have no reports of planned protests over President-elect Joe Biden's upcoming inauguration, but they say that could change. UC San Diego Health, San Diego County, and the Padres are teaming up to vaccinate at least 5,000 healthcare workers per day against the coronavirus. The Vaccination Super Station opened today near Petco Park. It will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. 5,000 healthcare workers are currently eligible. And 2 gorillas at San Diego Zoo Safari Park have tested positive for the coronavirus. It's believed to be the first transmission of the virus to apes. Zoo officials say 2 gorillas began coughing and tests confirmed the virus. A 3rd may also be infected. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.